Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Kahu's Corner. Aloha, Shabbat Shalom, Hazit, Raja Daja. Thank you for joining me here this morning. This morning, Ziggy Marley. Yeah, quoting Ziggy Marley here on Kahu's Corner. Ziggy Marley had a song said, "If you don't know your past, you don't know your future." Okay, and today I have a blessing of a blessing. I get to go on what we call a legacy tour here on the Big Island. I'm going to get to go and see a lot of the sites where God moved even before the missionaries were here. And the history that is here is incredible of the mighty works of God here on the Big Island and all the different sites that are actually still preserved to this day. And this is so important for us to learn, guys. You know, I say in my teachings at times, I say if I was in charge of Christianity, there would be three things that I would require of everybody who claims to be a believer. Okay? Number one, you better do an in-depth study of the book of Romans, especially the first 7 chapters, and realize your salvation, your justification before God. The second thing would be an in-depth study of the names of God in the Hebrew. So important because we develop a better understanding of the greatness of our God just through his names, because he has over 300 different names and titles. And then the third, it would be a mandatory trip to Israel. Seriously, that everybody who professed to be a believer, a follower of Yeshua, would have to take a trip to Israel. That's what I would require. Obviously, I'm not God. Why though? Why the trip to Israel? Because if you don't know your past, you don't know your future. You know, one of the things the Bible is, the number one thing it is a character book, and it's revealing the character of God to humanity. That's why the study of the names are so important. But the other thing, one of the many other things that the Bible is a history book. It's full of history, but it's the history of God, his story. Okay? And so again, back to the theologian Ziggy Marley, if you don't know your past, you don't know your future. And the Bible reveals both to us, both the past of how God dealt with his people and the future for God's people. And not only the future of God's people, but for those who rejected who God is. And so in the book of Joshua, they were about to cross, they were actually crossing into the promised land, the land of Canaan. And outside of the city of Jericho, they crossed the Jordan. And as they went through, they placed some stones. They placed some stones as a Ebenezer, a memorial, a marker, a reminder, so that the future generations could look back and see the faithfulness of God. And this is so important, guys, that we understand how to do this, how to look back at the faithfulness of God so that we can keep looking to the future, because he has prepared the future by what he did in the past. And so we need to really develop this in our relationship with God, in our lives day in and day out, because our lives in the present going to be chaotic and crazy and at times even depressing. But if we know how to look back at the faithfulness of God, then we can deal with the present because we see how bright our future really is. There was a song from the I think it was the 80s or 90s, and the song went, "My future is so bright that I gotta wear shades." You know, our future is so bright. But we have to look back so that we can look into the glory of our future. Guys, the world is falling apart day in and day out. And if you're still trying to put your hope in the politician, the pastor, whoever, then you as a child of God are missing the point. You see, we need to look back, look into the Bible and see the faithfulness of God so that we can be reminded in the present of the glorious future that is yet to come. Let me read a quick passage from the book of Joshua. where they set up those memorial stones. And it says this, let this be a sign among you so that when your children ask later, what do these stones mean to you? The context is they set up these stones as God did the miracle of splitting the Jordan River. They set it there as Ebenezer's, as reminders. In verse 7, Joshua 4:7, it says this, then you shall say to them, to who? Your children, because the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall become a memorial to the sons of Israel. Guys, let me ask you something this morning. Do you have memorials? Have you set up mileposts, stones, Ebenezer's, whatever you want to call them, in your life from your past when things were so crazy and chaotic, and the only way you got through it was through the faithfulness of God? You need to build these, because the future we head into in this present world is crazy, but the future beyond that is so bright that I got to give God glory. But you see, guys, if you don't set up these memorials for yourself, whatever it may have been, times where things seem so lost, so hopeless, and then God as always shows up because he's a faithful one. Take yourself back there maybe today. Remind yourself of the faithfulness of God so that at the present time you can be shooting towards towards the future because of the faithfulness of God. See, guys, those memorial stones, okay, actually show back up in the New Testament. Those very stones, most scholars and myself, we believe that when John the Baptist was baptizing at the River Jordan, and he told the Pharisees there, he said that these stones, pointing to, I believe, was those stones that the Israelites set up hundreds and hundreds of years before, were still there. And he pointed at the stones and said that these stones are a reminder of the faithfulness of God. Guys, hear me. We need to set these up in our lives, because I read the papers, well, not the papers anymore, I read the internet and I see the craziness of this world. And I need to go back to the memorials of my life when God saved me, literally, from my own hands. Saved me from times of my failing in my walk with him, pulling me out of the miry clay, setting my feet back upon the rock, which is him. See, this morning, child of God, I don't know who you are, but you might be needing a reminder of the faithfulness of God. And you have it in the Bible and in your own life. Take the time today. Remind yourself of the faithfulness of God in your past, so that as you look towards the future, it's going to be very, very bright. All right? With that, I'd love to see you guys in church tomorrow. It's time to get out of the internet watching. It's time to be fellowshipping in person with one another, just the way God intended it, not the way man has divided and separated us. All right? So hope to see a bunch of you tomorrow. Aloha and God's blessings upon you.